Students, and welcome back to the English online classes. um, the previous video, I think it stopped abruptly because of some technical fault, and I'm extremely sorry about it, but let's continue with the next video. As this lesson is little lengthy, it is taking time for me to complete the portion, and I don't want to hurry the completion of the chapter because you need to understand each and every part of it. Basically, in the previous videos, we people have seen about this chapter, The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck, that he wants to tell the people, or he wants to impart the message that humanity is above all. And for this, he had taken the character of Dr. Sadao Hoki, who is a Japanese doctor, a famous surgeon, as well as a scientist, and who was a very devotee Japanese. And in the beginning part, he had explained about his house, where it is situated, about his family, his father especially, who is also a very traditional Japanese, and he believed in the various fact that education is more important, and for that reason he had sent his son to America to learn surgery. And by when he turned 30, he was back to Japan, and before his father passed away, he fulfilled the dream of his father. And also, we people have seen about um, the reasons why he was not sent to the battlefield. First reason also, that he was as a scientist, he was trying to bring perfection to the medicine that has been taken for the cleaning of the wound. And the second reason, that the general was terribly sick of the Japanese army and might need an operation anytime, for which he relied on Dr. Sadao the most. My dear students, I'm recalling all these facts so that you remember the facts that we people have studied earlier, and it's easy for you to link all the coming up paragraphs of this video. Now, after that, we people came across the climatic condition that has been explained over there, and I'm not going to again explain it. I have done it in the previous videos also. And then we also saw that how Dr. Sadao, he speaks about his meeting with his wife for the first time, and how he happens to fall in love with her only after acceptance from his father, and then how they got married and they were living happily in love with two children. While they both, husband and wife, were standing in the veranda, and he was just running down his memory lane, at that time suddenly they saw a figure being coming out from the mist, like as if the ocean has thrown that figure, which was assumed by them that might be a human being. And then after a few staggery steps, after staggering a little bit, that figure fell down on the stomach, and maybe was lying there with the face buried in the beach sand. And then they were surprised that who could it be. They guessed that it might be a fisherman, but Sada was worried because he knew that the rocks underwater were very sharp and might have ripped open the flesh of that fisherman, so he might be badly injured. He and Hannah ran to check it out, and they found that the man was on his stomach and was, yes, actually bleeding, because one part of his that side on the sand was already red in color. And then they turned the man, and to their utter surprise, it was a white man and an American. Now, here I would like to just check out this fact that the story has been written at the time period when war broke out around the world, and Japan and America, they were the enemies of each other. And in such circumstances, the Japanese doctor and his wife happens to see a white man, an American person. And then it was a white man, and he was wearing on rags over him, and his cap fell apart, and his yellow hairs and the beard could be seen very clearly. His face was telling the story of tortures he might have gone through, because it looked very rough. And then suddenly Sadao remembered the wound, started searching, and he touched the back side on the right side back, and the wound was found and the blood started oozing out because of his fingers touching in that area, and he could feel the gunpowder around the circle of the gun wound. And this gun wound has not been taken care of since long time. Now there was dilemma in front of Dr. Sadao and his wife what to do with this man, because it was difficult for them to think of taking him home, but these two were a little hesitant also of putting him back into the water. The humanity within them did not permit them to do so, and the doctor inside Dr. Sadao, it was just going on telling him to take this man because he was wounded badly. And then at last, when both husband and wife found that they cannot gather the strength, or you cannot, and you can say that they could not come up with the fact that they want to push him back into the water, they decided that they will take him to their house. Now the problems were the servants there. How they are going to tell the Japanese servants that they brought an American home, they are going to harbor an American. You cannot say they are going to give shelter or harbor an American. He was a wounded man, and it was found from his cap that he was actually a prisoner of war, POW, and an American warship sailor he was. So I mean to say that maybe the naval force of America. And then Hannah said to Dr. Sadao that they will convince the servants that they had brought him home, but as soon as he get all right, they will hand him over to the police. To this, Dr. Sadao, he said that yes, definitely he is going to do that only. And after agreeing on this fact, both of them carried him home. He was very lightweight, maybe from days he had been starving, not given proper food. And after carrying him through the passage to the empty bedroom, which once upon a time belonged to Dr. Sadao's father, they laid him on the deep matted floor, covered him with a quilt, and he was so very dirty that Sadao said that whatever has to be done with him, that is other thing, but first thing is that he need to be washed. And Hannah said that she cannot bear her husband Dr. Sadao touching an enemy's body and a white man's body, so she will ask Yumi to clean him up. Now, who is this Yumi? Yumi, she is the caretaker of their children, like governess, no, like that sort. She's the caretaker, so she will ask her to leave the children for a little while, and then to clean up this man. And Sadao also said that okay, I too will tell the rest of the servants about the bringing of this white man. And before going, there was something in the face, means some kind of pain or something that spread over his face, that he just bent down to check his pulse and heartbeat. And then he said that this man needs an operation fast, otherwise he will die. But then one more thing was there, even if he live, what surety was there that he's going to live after being handed over to the police? So Hannah said that better you try not to save him while operating on him. And for a moment excuse me, for a moment when he said that I'm also not very sure that what will happen to him, whether he will die during the operation, to which Hannah was very sure that that can never happen, because Dr. Sadao was really a brilliant surgeon. Okay, after this happened, he said that something has to be done fast, so first thing is to clean him up. And then he moved out of the room, and Hannah followed him because she never wanted to be left alone with that American. It was not that she had not seen the Americans, but it was I think the first time after she had left America, and all those people whom she knew in America were good friends of hers at that time. And right now, this man has got nothing to do with her so-called friends, and for her, he was simply an enemy, a menace. And menace means tension or troublemaker, and whether he live or die, in both the cases, he is going to be a troublemaker for them. So this is what we have done in the previous videos, and now let's continue with the chapter. She turned to the nursery and called, Yumi. But the children heard her voice and she had to go in for a moment and smile at them and play with the baby boy, now nearly 3 months old. Over the baby's soft black hair, she motioned with her mouth, "Yumi, come with me." "I'll put the baby to bed," Yumi replied. "He is ready." She turned to the nursery. You might be knowing that basically in maximum foreign countries, the children in their childhood itself they'll live in a separate room, and nursery means the place where the children they play about, they sleep, their room it is. And there she was there, that servant, that governess or the caretaker, and she called her name. And when she called her out, at that time the children also heard her voice, and now Hannah was having no option, but she has to go inside the room, and she was there, and she just moved her hands through the hairs of her little one, and then she said to Yumi that Yumi, please come with me. So Yumi, she said that the baby is just ready to sleep, so let me put him to sleep and then I'll come. She went with Yumi into the bedroom next to the nursery and stood with the boy in her arms. Okay, now in the nursery means the playroom type, there they were, and from there they went to the baby's bedroom, and she stood with the boy in her arms, while Yumi spread the sleeping quilts on the floor and laid the baby between them. I told you in the beginning itself, if you have ever seen any Japanese movie and all, you might have seen that they prefer basically the ground arrangement, the floor arrangements and all. They don't prefer beds and all those things. I don't know in the present time how it is. Maybe they are also modernized, and because of that reason all the bed chairs and all might be available now. But basically in the olden times it was like all floor arrangement used to be. They used to have mattresses and all spread out, and then they used to sleep on that. So here also the mattress was spread out, the sleeping quilt was spread out on the floor, and the baby was made to lie down over there. Then Hannah led the way quickly and softly to the kitchen. The two servants were frightened at what their master had just told them. The old gardener, who was also a house servant, pulled the few hairs off on his upper lip. "The master ought not to heal the wound of this white man," he said bluntly to Hannah. "The white man ought to die. First he was shot, then the sea caught him and wounded him with her rocks. If the master heals what the gun did and what the sea did, they will take revenge on us." "I will tell him what you say," Anna replied courteously, but she herself was also frightened. Although she was not superstitious as the old man was, could it ever be well to help an enemy? Nevertheless, she told Yumi to fetch the hot water and bring it to the room where the white man was. Okay, after putting the baby on the bed, she, along with Yumi, went to the kitchen, and when she reached to the kitchen, she found that the servants have already been told by Dr. Sadao about the arrival of the American, or bringing of the American to the house, and they seemed to be very frightened with that fact, especially the old gardener. This old gardener, he was the house servant also, means beside looking after the garden, he was doing the housework also. He was so very frightened that he even pulled some of the hairs from the top of his upper lips, and see the way he looked at the entire thing. He said that the master here means Dr. Sadao, he should not try to heal the wound, means he should not tend or attend the wounds of the white man. You know why? They seem to be a little superstitious in nature, I think so. So he said to Hannah that master must not do that. Master must not try to heal take care and to get all right this white man, because see, first of all, the man was shot. Okay. The second thing, when he was in the sea, the rocks which were there under the sea, they ripped open the wounds, and because the bullet and the sea tried to kill him, or tried to wound him, tried to hurt him, then the master, if he tries to heal that same man, then the you can say that misfortune will befall on the master, means like sea and all will take revenge on Dr. Sadao. So Hannah very respectfully, courteously, she said that, okay, I will tell what you said to your master. And little she got frightened, though she was not superstitious in nature, but then she started thinking whether helping an enemy will be a good thing. And whatever may be, then she said to Yumi to bring the hot water buckets to the room where the white man was. Further, she went ahead and slid back the partitions. Sada was not yet there. Yumi, following, put down her wooden bucket. Then she went over to the white man. When she saw him, her thick lips folded themselves into stubbornness. I have never washed a white man, she said, and I will not wash so dirty a one now. Hannah cried at her severely. You will do what your master commands you. There was so fierce a look of resistance upon Yumi's round, dull face that Hannah felt unreasonably afraid. After all, if the servant should report something that was not as it happened. Okay, now Yumi and Hannah entered into that room. How? She took Yumi to that room where the white man was, and then she opened the partition. All the sliding sort of doors, no? So Hannah opened the partition, and Sada was not there. She was followed by Yumi, and she put the wooden bucket down, and then she went over to the white man. When she saw him, her lips, it was tightened up in stubbornness. Like, means like how people, they try to hold their lips tight, no? Out of stubbornness or some kind of an arrogance, like that sort. She too was doing the same way, and she totally declined. She said that I will not wash him. First thing is that she had never ever washed a white man, and this man seems to be so dirty, and a white man, no, I'm not going to do it, she said. At that time, Hannah, after all, she was the mistress, no? She's the, what do you say, Malkin. So she said severely, means in a commanding type of a voice, she said that you are supposed to do what your master commands you. Master, again I said, earlier itself I have told you, Dr. Sada. When she said that whatever your master has said, you have to do that, then automatically when she looked at Yumi, she was totally taken aback, she got frightened because the expression that Yumi gave. See, Hannah and Dr. Sadao brought that white man. They were keeping him at home, and who was knowing about it? Hannah, Dr. Sadao, and obviously the servants. And if any one of them go outside and tell the people, maybe they haven't brought him to harbor him. After he get all right, they will definitely hand him over to the police. But still, they have kept an enemy at home. So maybe the servants will go and picturize the whole matter the way actually it is not. So that's why that made Hannah feel very frightened. Very well, she said with dignity. You understand, we only want to bring him to his senses so that we can turn him over as a prisoner. I will have nothing to do with it, Yumi said. I am a poor person and it is not my business. Then please, Hannah said gently, return to your own work. Now, when Yumi was totally not in a mood, it seemed, not mood, she was not in any way going to clean this white man. Hannah, after all, she's the mistress and she has got her own status and dignity as the mistress. She said that, okay, see, you have to understand that we have not brought him to give him harbor or shelter. We brought him so that he can come back to his senses, and then we'll hand him over to the police. You may said that it's none of my business. I don't care what you want to do with that man. Then Hannah said that, okay, very well. Then you do one thing, you just go and do your work. At once Yumi left the room, but this left Hannah with the white man alone. She might have been too afraid to stay had not her anger at Yumi's stubbornness now sustained her. Many a times it might have happened with you also. You might be frightful, but sometimes anger overpowers that fright. like you are angry on something, and suddenly a thing or a creature comes in front of you of which you are very frightened in general, but because you are very angry, somewhere that fright does not exist, and that anger overpowers your fright, and you are able to face it. Here also, when Yumi left the room, she was left, Hannah was left all alone with that American. Earlier, she was frightened and she just left the room with Sadao, but this time she didn't, because her anger over Yumi's stubbornness was much more powerful than her fright. Stupid Yumi, she muttered fiercely. Isn't anything but a man, and a wounded, helpless man. In the conviction of her own superiority, she bent impulsively and untied the knotted rugs that kept the white man covered. When she had his breast bare, she dipped the small clean towel that Yumi had brought into the steaming hot water and washed his face carefully. The man's skin, though rough with exposure, was of a fine texture and must have been very blond when he was a child. Then now Hannah started talking to herself, and she said, "Oh, it was so stupid of you. What is this in cleaning this man? He's just a man, a helpless, wounded man, emotionless, unconscious man." And in her own conviction of her own superiority, means in the flow of her own that anger and dignity of being the mistress and all, she just bent down and unknowingly she started opening up the knot of the cloth which was tied up or covered the man and kept. And then when she made his chest bare, means naked, then she dipped this clean towel into that water which was brought by Yumi, and she started washing his face. And when she started cleaning his face, she found that the skin of that man seems to be very rough due to maybe constant exposure to sun, but was really a fine texture and might have been blonde, golden yellow type color when he was a child. While she was thinking these thoughts, though not really liking the man better now that he was no longer a child, she kept on washing him until his upper body was quite clean. But she dared not turn him over where was Sadao. Now her anger was ebbing, and she was anxious again, and she rose, wiping her hands on the wrong towel. Then, lest the man be chilled, she put the quilt over him. She was just immersed, or she was just immersed in her own thoughts, and though that doesn't mean that she really liked the man in any way, because whatever you say, he was an enemy. And then she kept on washing him in her own flow of thoughts, and she cleansed the upper body. She did not turn him, she could not dare to do so. And then she started thinking where Sadao is, because by now that anger started fading away. So now that anger started fading away, the fright started approaching. And then she, in that same approaching fright, she just wiped her hand with the dirty towels itself, and just that man don't feel cold, she covered him with the quilt. Sadao, she called softly. He had been about to come in when she called. His hand had been on the door, and now she opened it. She saw that he had brought his surgeon's emergency bag and that he wore his surgeon's coat. You have decided to operate? She cried. Yes, he said shortly. He turned his back to her and unfolded a sterilized towel upon the floor of the Tokonoma alcove and put his instruments out upon it. Fetch towels, he said. Now she called out softly, thinking that she should not disturb the man. He was already unconscious, but still she did not want to disturb him. And it was just a coincidence that she called, and Sada was already on the door. His hand was there on the door itself, and he opened it up, and she saw that he brought his surgeon coat as well as his bag also, emergency kit. And then she asked him, so you have after all decided to operate on him? And he said yes. And then he turned his back to her, and one table was lying down over there on which the basically arrangements are made of any kind of items and all. There he spread out a sterilized towel, and on top of the sterilized towel he just spread out all the instruments that will be needed for the operation. And then he ordered her, you can say that he just said to her to fetch some towels. So this is what I'll be taking for this video, and the rest of it we will continue with the next one. Before I just wind up everything in this video, I would just request all the students of class 12 to kindly go through all the videos carefully, and if you have any queries, I hope all of you have given your correct WhatsApp number to your class teacher, so I'll be collecting it from there. And when you receive a message from me in those numbers, it means that you are fully free to do your queries. Means whatever doubts you are having related to a chapter or related to any of the questions, you can just put up over there in that WhatsApp, or you can message to me through that number which you will receive of mine. And please, this WhatsApp number is only for messages related to study material, and no other calls will be received by me. So my dear students, please be very careful and be alert about the fact that all the pain that the teachers are taking for making your studies much more easier for you, and also the forthcoming examination, please try to cooperate with all the teachers so that everything is done smoothly and they all function properly during this period of pandemic. Let's all pray that may this time and this crisis get over soon, and we all may get back to our own usual life. Till then, goodbye, take care.